America jumped into the war between Israel and Iran over the weekend as US President Donald Trump announced airstrikes on Iran's 3 principal nuclear sites. President Trump is now claiming a ceasefire agreement has been reached between the two, although they are yet to confirm the ceasefire has been agreed to again, but some news sources are saying Iran has agreed to a ceasefire with Israel. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has called for diplomacy and dialogue. Foreign Minister Winston Peters said ongoing military action in the Middle East is extremely worrying. Meanwhile, the government has sent a Hercules to the region and is talking with commercial airlines about getting citizens to safety. So the intervention of the US in the conflict has raised concerns about what is next. How does it affect New Zealand? From our citizens that may be overseas, the price of petrol and KiwiSaver. Geoffrey Miller is an international geopolitical analyst, and it's good to have him on the show. Geoffrey, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Leah. Good to be with you.
Nice. Hey, why now, Geoffrey? What pushed Israel to strike when it did?
Well, look, never a dull moment in the Middle East at the moment, and never a dull moment with Donald Trump in the White House. You know, we've all forgotten almost that the whole tariff spat for back in April with Liberation Day. We moved on to war with Iran. Who knows what will be happening next month? You know, it's just, as I say, it's just an endless series of events that we've had since January. But look,
keep going.
No, look, I mean, Israel has had concerns for decades over Iran and its nuclear ambitions, and Benjamin Netanyahu has spoken out for years about this, saying that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, and he's seen an opportunity because of what we've seen since October 7th, 2023, when that brutal attack by Hamas on Israel took place. And then Israel has waged war on Hamas, and then last year it went into Lebanon and heavily degraded Hezbollah in Lebanon. These are proxies of Iran. They're largely funded by Iran. Certainly that's where the weaponry comes from. We also saw Bashar al-Assad's regime fall in Syria back in December, and that was also an Iran-friendly regime. So the proxies have been largely, they've been degraded. They haven't been exactly neutered. They're still there. But suddenly there's an opportunity there, if you're Benjamin Netanyahu, to go for what he sees as the head of the snake, which is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Tehran, and to go all out, bomb the nuclear sites, the nuclear facilities, and a lot of other facilities of the regime and regime targets, kill off nuclear scientists and bomb university and state TV and all manner of other sites that we're not even sure yet exactly what they are. But there's been a whole range of targets that Israel has targeted in Tehran and around Iran in the last 10 days. And then at the weekend, Donald Trump decided to enter the fray and to join the bombing campaign itself. And that is because the US has military capabilities that Israel ultimately does not.
Sure. I want to get to that, Geoffrey. Do you believe Iran's nuclear threat is as immediate as Israel has claimed? Or is it about regional influence and deterrence?
Look, this is where there are a real range of opinions, and Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence in Trump's administration, said back in March that the assessment was that Iran was not actively working towards a nuclear weapon at the moment. But Iran does have nuclear ambitions at the same time. There is no doubt about that. Iran probably would like to get a nuclear weapon at some point because Israel has a nuclear weapon and they want to have parity with Israel. So I think that is fair to say that. The question is what you then do about it. Now, this is where I part company with the Israelis and the United States. The idea of bombing them into submission, I think, will only make Tehran more determined in the future to get hold of a nuclear weapon. And having had the bombings that we've seen over the last 10 days, I think that will only galvanize public opinion in Iran behind the regime and will increase the determination to build a nuclear weapon. And you don't necessarily need massive facilities in the end. I mean, a lot of these facilities are quite big because there is a nuclear energy program on top. But to actually build a nuclear weapon, you don't necessarily need absolutely massive spaces. And so I think it will drive this further underground, and I don't think Iran will give up. But this latest round of escalation, thankfully, perhaps seems to be over with the ceasefire that Donald Trump announced this morning, and it's meant to have come into force just in the last half hour or so.
Right.
Seems to be in place. Seems to be in place from the initial reports.
Geoffrey, you mentioned Hezbollah. There's been talk of Hezbollah and even Houthi involvement. How much danger was there then to become a multi-front war?
Well, I think we've already had that since October the 7th. We've had all the different fronts involved. We've had Hezbollah, we've had Hamas, we've had the Houthis in Yemen firing missiles at Israel. We've now got the Iran, we've had Syria involved. I mean, we've had all the different players involved now, but the Houthis are heavily degraded because Israel has managed to bomb them. Hezbollah, of course, is heavily degraded after the pager attacks and Israel's ground invasion airstrikes that we had last year. So now, as I said, it's kind of the opportunity if you're Benjamin Netanyahu to go for the jugular, as it were.
Do you always think, Geoffrey, that Donald Trump was always going to bring America into it? You mentioned Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, he earlier ignored her saying that Iran wasn't building nuclear weapons, although she has now changed her position, walked that back. So he was always going to be there, do you think?
Look, we had this guessing game last week in a way with Donald Trump, will he or won't he? But I think it was all actually a big deception, a big ruse, and I had that feeling last week, and I really think that's been borne out, that was just designed to confuse the Iranians, to keep them guessing as to what was going to come, to give them to keep that element of surprise, and so that was what all the I'm going to decide within 2 weeks was about with Donald Trump. I actually think that this has been being cooked up for quite some time, because I don't think you necessarily make these plans on the hoof. And
not.
there was some suggestion with Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump that they didn't get on. Remember, Donald Trump, he made his first big foreign trip outside the United States in May, but he only went to the Gulf states and the Middle East. He bypassed Israel. And there was some talk over those early months of the second term of the Donald Trump administration that he'd got offside with Netanyahu, that he didn't like Netanyahu and so forth. But I wonder if that was all orchestrated, and actually they were getting on very well behind the scenes, but they deliberately decided to pretend otherwise, so to keep that element of surprise in a way for Iran. But I think the hawks have had Donald Trump's ear, the Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, these hawkish Republicans, they've had Donald Trump's ear over the past few months, and especially over the last couple of weeks. Donald Trump has seen Israel go in, bomb these sites, in his view, probably successfully, and he wanted to have a piece of the action and wanted to claim the credit and claim the success. I mean, we all know that Donald Trump is very vain, and he wanted to be part of this. So it is very much on brand for Donald Trump to be centre of attention.
He also doesn't he also want to be the man that's seen to also bring peace to the Middle East?
Indeed, and this is the thing with Donald Trump. There's so many inconsistencies. He does have this reputation for being a deal maker. He introduced the Abraham Accords back in the first term of the Trump administration, which are these series of peace deals signed with the UAE, between Israel and the UAE, Israel and Bahrain, and a number of other countries in the Middle East and North Africa. And he liked the idea, I think, of being this peacemaking figure, and he put one of his posts out on Truth Social the other day talking all about how he should win the Nobel Peace Prize but wouldn't get it, etc. And he likes that idea. And look, I'm not going to be churlish. I mean, this ceasefire is a good thing. Peace is always a good thing. However it comes to pass. I mean, I think you can have some debates. I mean, is Donald Trump really the arse that's claiming credit for putting out the fire here? But look, if we just park all of that, the weapons have died down in Tehran. The bombing has stopped, and that's a good thing. Peace is good. Peace is fundamentally good. We need more of it, by the way, all around the Middle East, because there's still a war in Gaza raging. The ceasefire in Gaza broke down in March. And Trump came in January. Remember that initial ceasefire in Gaza was negotiated by Trump and his team, and it held for 2 months, and then it broke down, and now we're back to square one, and we're getting 50 to 100 Palestinians being killed, it seems, every day waiting for food. It's horrific. It's shocking. and we need a peace deal there. We need a ceasefire. So I want Donald Trump to move on and get a peace deal again in Gaza, get another ceasefire. We need peace breaking out all across the Middle East, and I don't really mind so much how we get there, as long as we do get there, because it is shocking for the 55,000 Palestinians who have lost their lives, for the 1,200 Israelis who were killed on October 7th, all the hostages, and many of them are still there. It's horrific,
Geoffrey,
what we've seen in the past 2 years.
For New Zealand, for a little old New Zealand sitting down the end of the world, Winston Peters has said it is the most serious crisis in his role as foreign minister, and the PM has called for diplomacy. What is our role, Geoffrey? What is New Zealand's role? What should we be doing?